friend, and he was gone for the weekend.
You went most of the yard?
I had a big pile of mulch in that week.
Oh, did you? Couldn't get rid of it?
Yes,
Call the order of Board of Zoning Appeals regular meeting Monday, July 11th, 2016, 5 o'clock. Roll call.
Mr. Boland?
Here.
Mr. Schlachter?
Here.
Mr. Helberg is absent. Mr. Miller?
Here.
Mr. Hayes?
Here. Okay, how about approval of minutes for May 2nd, 2016 and June 6th, 2016. All had a chance to look at them. I think they have them in front of you. So,
Second.
roll call.
Mr. Boland?
Yes.
Mr. Schlachter?
Yes.
Mr. Helberg is absent. Mr. Miller?
Yes.
Mr. Hayes?
Yes. Okay, any old business? Okay, before we get started here, anybody that would like to comment tonight, you're going to have to be sworn in, and if you raise your right hand. Do you swear that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, to the best of your knowledge?
Okay.
Okay, this is for the, for item number 4 on the agenda. As soon as I find it here. An exception for a temporary use for a motorhome to reside and be lived in on the property located at 4566 Indian Ridge Road.
Chairman.
Oh, he is here. Okay. Get you another chair.
Oh.
We weren't expecting you.
See, you're late 2 minutes and they took your chair.
I can see it. I sold it.
You're done, man.
Al still gets your pay, though.
Yeah, that's right. I'll split it.
We're done.
Everybody sworn in? Yeah. Okay. Thank you. All right. So we're up to, did you ask for old business yet?
Yes.
Okay. Sorry, everybody. Okay. So I guess we're on to new business. Okay.
Excuse me, we need the record to reflect that
I am.
Mr. Helberg is now present.
Yes. Here.
Mr. Helberg?
Better late than never.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, Darrell.
The applicant is requesting an exception for a temporary use per section 2405-G of the Sylvania Township zoning resolution to allow a large recreational vehicle to be parked on the driveway of the subject property and to be lived in through August 31st, 2016. The applicant's request stems from medical issues within the family and the desire to have 2 family members spend as much time together as possible. Section 2219 of the zoning resolution addresses the storage and use of RVs on a residential property in the township. They are to be parked in a side or rear yard and are not permitted in the front yard area for more than 72 hours at a time. Additionally, the RVs are not to be lived in or have fixed connections to utilities. The Board of Zoning Appeals may grant a temporary use for a period not exceeding 12 months for use not normally permitted in the zone district in which it is located, provided that that use does not entail the construction of a substantial structure. Sylvania Township zoning staff recommends approval of the exception request for a temporary use to allow a recreational vehicle for living/housekeeping purposes and to be parked in the front yard of the property at 4566 Indian Ridge Road for a temporary period of time as decided by the board and not to exceed 12 months from the date of this hearing.
All right. Any questions so far?
Okay, so can it be plugged in though? So in the picture it shows it is plugged in, it just can't be fixed after
Right, well, the temporary
that.
exception would allow that for the, whatever time period the board decides.
So I think for now, the issue is not that it's parked there, it's that there's waiting in the house parked there.
Well, as well as it being beyond the front,
Okay,
front side of the house.
Okay. Is there anybody here to speak on behalf of the applicant? We'll ask you to please come to the podium and sign in and give us your name.
My name is Craig Hanna. I am the owner of the property, and that's my brother-in-law who filed on behalf of him and his wife, my sister. Originally, they were planning to be traveling and raising ALS awareness. Situations precluded them from extending their campaign, basically, for lack of a better word. And plus, my father being admitted into the hospital at one point in time, they said, notify all your family, we're going to back up inside here. And since that point in time, his condition has improved, although he is on dialysis 3 days a week. Mobility's going to approach 86 years old, so my sister and him had this time to get together. His home, where they did live at, is being leased to their daughter, and they were supposed to stay there until the end of the year. So they now have made arrangements to try to make newer accommodations to allow them to stay there, and they're fixing things up, so I know this is going to be a short-term stay. I'm not sure if it's going to just be to the end of August or maybe until September, October, depending on how the city allows the permits over on Walworth. So, and I've always told them, and I went door to door to all the neighbors as well, said if you have issues, please let me know, we'll get them all taken care of. I don't want any problems with the neighbors. They said that everybody was fine with it, everybody within 200 feet of it, they were all aware of it. I told them, there is no more junk on the property, and I understand in the wintertime, there was a car hauler sitting out front, and I take responsibility for that. I should have told them to get that off the property at that time. But I don't want anything kind of making the neighborhood look like it's going downhill or anything, because I really love the neighborhood myself. And I wouldn't want that either, so I constantly keep it up and maintain it on the site as well.
Do you have talked to the neighbors?
Yes, I talked to them on both sides of me. I talked to them across the street. I even went down like 3 doors in opposite directions to let them know as well.
And just refresh me, how long has it actually been there?
It came in there around towards the middle to the end of June that it arrived.
Okay.
And then they were here over the winter time at one time, and then we didn't even know there was a pool when we moved into the property. And in the previous summer before that, they were there for about 2 months, and we've never heard a complaint. So I'm thinking it was because of the way it was staged in the wintertime and the extra vehicle being there. So we made arrangements to make sure there's no extra vehicles on the property that would detract from the appearance of the neighborhood.
Okay. And what we're looking at is permission for temporary use, so for sure, everybody understands it would have to go.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, they were understanding even if this did not pass through, I told them, I said, whatever the zoning decides, you would end up having, if they said no, you had to July 11, according to the agreement for this year, you would probably end up having to pack up and leave tomorrow. And they said that they understood, they were not going to argue with it.
What do we think is a realistic time frame that they were?
I'm probably thinking September, October in that area. This gives them a chance to get the city inspecting the space for all the plumbing and electrical that they're doing in order to put new bathrooms in to accommodate her. She's in with a trach and on a mobilized wheelchair now, so he's constantly taking care of her. He would have been here to address you himself, but she wasn't able to be left alone at this time.
else have any questions?
So you're just hooking up power to the vehicle, not
No,
sewer?
there's no sewage, no nothing sewage at all. He had bought a special tank to drain his tanks, and he takes them to the RV center on Whiteford in Alexis, and they allow him to dispose of everything there. And it's just an electrical to help run his, and he runs his generator when need be.
Anybody else?
So what prompted the application?
We got a letter that was sent from this office here, which was sent to, for some odd reason, to our credit union, not to us. And that's how we found out about it, and they said that he had to remove himself, so he was able to leave, and where he was at, and yeah, sometimes you can wear out the ball at times, so he asked if he could come back, and we said the only way we could do it is if zoning would approve it, so he came and talked to you. I don't know who was he talked, and they said as long as you apply, you can stay there until July 11th, when we have the hearing, and we'll make a recommendation at that point.
Yeah, we had received an anonymous complaint back in, I think it was February, about the RV, and I had sent a letter to the property owner, addressing that.
Okay, so it had been there, gone, and then back.
Right, and then the gentleman came in about, I guess it was probably a month or so ago, to apply for this. Well, he sent me an email first, and then apply for it. And I said, as long as you have a pending application for a temporary use, it could stay there, but if it does, for whatever reason, would not be approved by the board, then it would have to be removed from the property. Or I should say not removed from the property, it could be behind, in the side or rear yard, but it couldn't be out front and it couldn't be lived in.
So even if it's in the back, we still need, so that's what yeah, I don't, yeah, is there, is there anybody else here to speak on behalf of this matter?
Have you received any response?
I haven't, have you got any call? No, we've not had any calls or emails on this.
So under the temporary use, they're allowed up to how much time?
Up to 1 year.
1 year, that's what I thought, okay.
The board can designate whatever time they feel is appropriate, but not to exceed 1 year from today's date.
6 months. Anybody thinks about that?
Well, I mean, that's probably not something you can use in the winter.
I'm sorry?
It's probably not someplace you can live in the winter.
No, when we were here before, they ended up packing up insulation all the way around it and blankets around it and trying to keep it heated. So it's something that you are not planning on living in the winter.
So October 30th is a good date, or?
October 30th, I would believe it would be, and I believe if it extenuating circumstances, if I may ask, would they be able to approach the board maybe for like a 30-day extension?
Get November 30th.
Yeah, so just go to November 30th. So do we have a motion?
I propose a motion to approve the exception for temporary use for a motorhome to reside and be lived in on the property located at 4566 Indian Ridge Road, parcel number 78-73321, until November 30th, 2016.
Second.
Mr. Bowling?
Yes.
Mr. Schlechter?
Yes.
Mr. Hubbard?
Yes.
Mr. Hayes?
Yes.
Mr. Miller?
Yes.
Thank you. Okay.
Thank you very much. You're welcome.
Next, we have a variance request on the required parking for a restaurant in the 8,200 square foot multi-tenant building from 58 required to 52 provided on the property located at 7427 West Central Avenue. And we have a related request to that. Variance request on the side landscape strips from 5 foot required to 0 provided from the east and west side of the property located at 7427 West Central Avenue. We get the staff report.
Sure.
Darrell, before you read that, I will abstain from this vote. That property is listed for sale by Danbury.
Ah,
I am an employee of Danbury, so I will be listening.
okay. And technically, if you abstain, you,
Should go, Mick, here?
right.
Okay.
Please don't take, carry on. We want you to come
I've
back.
been in those shoes, get out. Okay.
Subject property is a 1.2-acre undeveloped lot located between an O'Reilly Auto Parts store and a Burger King restaurant on the south side of Central Avenue, just east of King Road. Plans for a proposed 8,200 square foot commercial center have been submitted to the township for project plan review. The applicant is seeking variances on the required parking and the required landscape strips for this proposed project, featuring a mix of retail and restaurant uses. The proposed new building would have 4 tenants, 2 retail tenants accounting for a total of 2,700 square feet, and 2 restaurant tenants accounting for 5,500 square feet. The parking variance for general retail uses, Section 2912 of the Sylvania Township Zoning Resolution, requires 1 space per 200 square feet. At 2,700 square feet, the retail use of the proposed building would require 14 parking spaces. For a restaurant in a multi-tenant building, Section 2912 requires one space per 125 square feet. The restaurant use of the building would require 44 parking spaces. Thus, the total required number of parking spaces for the proposed building and uses would be 58. The proposed site plan indicates 44 parking spaces. The proposed drive-through for the restaurant would accommodate an additional 8 spaces. This gives the site 52 spaces. The applicant maintains that the nature of the mixed uses, retail and restaurant, offers varied peak parking times and is requesting a variance from the required 58 parking spaces to the 52 spaces provided. Landscape strip variances. Additionally, the applicant is requesting a variance to reduce the 5-foot side landscape strips as required by Section 3001 of the zoning resolution to 0 feet provided for both the east and west sides of the subject property. The applicant maintains that the variance is required on the west side to allow two-way traffic. The proposed plan indicates approximately 29 feet between the building and the western property line. A 3-foot sidewalk is shown alongside the building. However, the Lucas County Engineer's Office will require a 4-foot sidewalk as part of the project plan review process. The sidewalk, along with a 5-foot landscape strip, would reduce the width of the two-way drive to approximately 21 feet. Section 2902 of the zoning resolution requires a minimum 20-foot width. This is also the Township Fire Department's minimum width requirement for an access drive. The applicant is also requesting a variance on a portion of the east side landscape strip in order to accommodate a front parking lot bump out into the drive-through lane. The drive-through lane is 21 feet wide. The bump out extends 5 feet into the drive-through lane. A 5-foot landscape strip would leave 11 feet for the drive-through lane. The applicant states in their variance application that the relative narrowness of the property warrants these landscape strip variances. The width of the property is 163 feet. The 4 businesses to the east of the subject property, O'Reilly, Tuffy Tire and Auto, Wendy's, Barney's BP, have the same width as this property. Staff recommendation, parking variance. The zoning staff recommends approval of the requested parking variance based on the varied peak business hours within the proposed commercial center, as well as the proposed drive-through on the east side of the building. Landscape strip variances. The township zoning staff recommends denial of the requested side landscape variances. Staff finds no hardship preventing the development of the proposed use on this site. Rather, the issue is the size of the proposed building for this site. The 163-foot lot width is comparable to the other C2 zone lots nearby. A 20-foot access drive on each side plus a 5-foot landscape strip on each side accounts for only 50 feet of the lot width, leaving 113 feet for building, sidewalks, etc. A reduction in the proposed building width would permit the project to meet the landscape requirements and possibly reduce the need for the parking variance.
Thank you. Any questions so far based on the staff report? not, do we have somebody here to speak on behalf of this matter?
Yes, Ken Hicks, First Development, 1428 Elton Road, Holland, Ohio, 43528. Real quick on the site plan, if you look on the east side here, I believe we do have the 5-foot landscape strip. We took out a portion just on the north side to accommodate, not just for the bump off of the drive-through, but also to create a small patio area for the tenant right there.
Oops.
You say you did eliminate that?
I'm saying we do have 5 feet along that east, and then it jogs a little, we eliminate the portion. We're asking for a variance on that, the north side to have that jog in the drive-through. As you know, my comments are, over time, your predecessor, obviously, with the overlay district and ODOT, and this site only allowing a right-in, right-out from Central Avenue, we take up a lot of the site with the access roads, both on the north side and the south side. So, in developers' terms, we're not trying to fit 10 pounds in a 5-pound bag. We're building an 8,200 square foot building at 1.23 acres, which is not that big of a building on that side of the lot. It's just unfortunately, the site is restricted due to, and I totally understand the rear, the residents in the back that worked in the township for 20 years now, and I've heard the stories from those in the rear. So I feel what's important is that we do have the large buffer in the rear, and I don't feel side yard setbacks, along Burger King. It seems for us to make this work, I think there's something we can do to maybe improve those side yards. I don't know if you've seen the O'Reillys, but we'd be more than happy to go in and talk to our neighbors and add more landscaping to those side yards instead of creating another 5 feet in the side.
You've got a staggered, you've got 70 feet for part of it, and then maybe depth for the rest. Is there, I guess the other concern, obviously on a parking variance, the food operator, the potential concern there. How many days is this thing supposed to be?
4 minimum, maybe 5.
Okay, so it's not all committed yet?
No. The East Bay is an AM drive-up user. The other restaurant is an afternoon dinner user. So they share parking maybe at lunchtime. Not really not even the East drive-up user doesn't. We own the center down the street where Starbucks and Cinco de Mayo is, where Subway is, and similar situation is a lot of morning traffic and then afternoon and night traffic between the two.
Are you able to disclose who using the
No, yeah.
drive-through? Yeah, okay.
So what would be the impact if you didn't get the variance on the sides? What would that do to your design?
Functionally, we have to somehow shrink the building.
Is there landscaping on the Riley side?
There is.
So he's got his 5 feet of landscaping in there? It looks like you got a little bit of room there. You just don't have 5 feet?
No, we do have 5 feet from the, we do have 5 feet halfway up on that O'Reilly's piece. And then see where the drive-through sort of jogs to the east?
Oh.
That's where we eliminate.
Okay. So you're only talking that small area right there?
Correct, on that.
And you said Riley's got some landscaping in there anyway?
Well, if you go back to that one strip and you show Darrell, looking from the street view, looking back at the parcel,
That one?
Yeah. Can you pull that up? I apologize, I should have taken pictures of those two landscapes. They have a strip there, but you can't tell which landscape.
Yeah.
And I'd be more than happy to go in, talk to them, and make it what it should look like on our expense.
Oh, you mean spruce that section up a little bit
I'm sorry.
on their side? Spruce that section up a little bit
Yes.
on their side that you
Yes.
can't get yours?
Yes.
But you will do your 5 foot up until there and then,
Until then, yes. And I'd be willing to go to Burger King. What Burger King has are a bunch of, I think they're elm trees that are grown. They built that 15 plus years. And I'd be willing to pay.
well, you don't have a problem over there though, right? You got your 5 feet over there, right?
No, I don't.
You're missing, your 5 foot missing over there too?
And the reason we did that is so we can get two-way traffic around the building.
Oh,
Because it's if it wasn't a right in, right out, and tenants could come in, we wouldn't mind doing a one-way around the building on the west side, but you can't do that because what's gonna happen is a lot of those tenants are heading west on Central, they hit King Road, come around and use the access road, then the question is how do they get to the city? They have to go through the driveway.
Well, I admit, it's a difficult thing that the state puts on here. We didn't map that roads in and out on Central. So what you're telling me, Mr. Hicks, is if I go and buy a piece of property on Central Avenue, and it's landscape, each neighbor has landscape on 5 feet, that I can just come in here and ask and, make my property bigger. I don't see the hardship.
The hardship is, but if this is my understanding, it's because you have the drive-through, right? It's going through on the right side. That's, that's their issue with shrinking the building.
Right. One of the Ken, when you ran I did look at the numbers before, when you ran your parking requirements, was it for 2 restaurants?
Yes.
Okay, so that's why you need a very generous amount of, I don't know, looking at it, not trying to reduce, even if you shrink it, you're still going to deal with some parking issue. Trying to get more in there because you've got the curb cuts in the front and you've got that large buffer requirement. You are right, typically 8,000 feet on 1 1/4 acres is, you should be able to do it. But that's, I think, part of it is some of the uses that are going in there, trying to get all of that parking because of the 2 restaurants. I don't even know if you shrunk your width, I'm not sure where it's going to even give you more parking. It's a challenge. It's tough. Okay.
Excuse me, Mr. Alpert. It wouldn't necessarily allow for more parking spaces, but the reduced size of the building would reduce the total required spaces. Right, so instead of the 58, maybe it would only need
Right, if you drop
the 52, depending on how the math came out.
Right, it looks like it's about 800 square feet or so, then he would be able to.
But that one side is only shrunk down for a short distance. So it wouldn't be landscape area, but it would be a wider section there. Is that correct? Where the bump out is for the patio?
So is the building, do you have a building design now? Or are you waiting for this?
Well, no, we designed it, but we haven't fully engineered it.
Any questions? If not, this one I would prefer to discuss in that if we can approve it. We can do that now, or we can maybe go to the next case.
let's go to the next case. and
That's what
take
I'd
a
like
vote.
to do. Okay, so we're gonna be convening back to discuss this. We'll come out and give you a vote tonight, but we're gonna move to the next case, so.
Sure.
Yeah. Unless there's any other questions, is there anyone else here to speak on behalf of this matter? Tim, sit down, you can't. If not, we're on to the next one, and so if everybody understands, we'll be discussing this case and we'll come out and do our vote. I just want to make sure Will you come on up? So the next case is a variance request for a 7-foot high fence or gate to be located within the front setback. The property is located at 8250 and 8350 Sylvania Avenue. And could we enhance the aggregates? Could we get the staff report, please?
Yes. The applicant is seeking a variance on the required maximum height for an open fence within the front setback. The setback distance for an M3 zone property is 50 feet from the public right-of-way. Section 2211B of the Sylvania Township zoning resolution allows a maximum height of 3.5 feet for the open fencing within this front setback. Due to the recent construction of a roundabout at the intersection of Sylvania Avenue and Centennial Road, the applicant's property is now open and accessible from these two thoroughfares. This is a security risk to the applicant's quarry business as well as a safety risk to the traveling public. The applicant wishes to erect a 7-foot-high open fencing and gates that will not hinder visibility, yet prevent unwarranted or accidental access to the quarry site. Sylvania Township zoning staff recommends approval of the requested variance. Not only is the proposed location of the 7-foot-tall open fence not a substantial detriment to the public good, it is favorable in the promotion of public safety at this increasingly busy intersection within the township. Additionally, you have a letter from the county engineer's office in front of you advocating their approval of this variance. And excuse my artwork here, but as the roundabout is brand new, there is no available aerial photographs or maps of it. No, it was out of commission for the week. So I keep pushing for the drone, but we haven't got that yet.
Anything for Daryl? Any questions? And is there anyone here to speak on behalf of this matter?
Yes, filters, hands and aggregates.
Please ask you to sign in, please. Thanks. Oh, okay. Was he here? Okay. You were here when they did the swearing in?
I did not swear in.
Ah, okay. All right. Raise your right hand.
Raise your right hand. Do you swear that the testimony you're about to give is the truth to the best of your knowledge?
Yes.
Thank you. Okay.
All right, we're asking for this variance, as you all well know, you've probably all been through the roundabout. We're all about safety, not only for the general public, but for our own people. And basically, we need that and to be able to secure our property. There are like 4-foot swales that have been put in, and we've had numerous vehicles that the township police have gotten that have caught, that have driven over the swales already and into the property. And on the west side of Centennial, about 64 feet off the road, there's a 140-foot drop down into our pit. We have put in some temporary buffers of stone that will keep the people out from pulling in and stopping and getting out and walking in there. The ditch was enclosed to the west about an extra 130 feet from what it was previously, where there was no access in there.
Question?
Are you going to keep the stone barrier after the fence is up? or-
We will on the west side, yes. We will still leave that barrier there.
I guess that was one of my questions. Now, I've been out there and I see the situation there, and I think that's kind of a gateway. For some reason, I think if you put up a nice fence,
We're going to put up 7-foot high structural aluminum, be very nice looking.
okay, And you're gonna keep the stone on the,
On the south side, we're gonna keep the stone there for now.
okay, where there's the shortest distance into the floor, that's correct?
No, that stone will stay there, yes,
Yeah.
on the west side.
Yeah.
What's this fencing look like? You got a picture of it?
I do.
It will actually be this first style.
Oh, that's nice.
Thank you.
Bill,
That is,
I know it's expensive.
Bill, watch the court.
I know it's expensive.
It'll be the
That is, yeah, I was just concerned with making sure that was going to do the job, but this is very nice.
We didn't want to go with chain link, we wanted to make it look aesthetically as good as it possibly could with the new intersection.
That is a nice sense. Okay.
will this connect to other fences you have currently installed,
No,
or just in those
No.
particular areas?
we put a temporary road in that went to Sylvania Avenue,
Right,
east of the intersection, it's in Pennsylvania. So we're gonna have a gate there and another gate on the west side, where when they did the improvements, to be able to access the west side of our property, so there'll be 2 new gates and about 665 feet of fence.
Of this fencing?
Yes.
On the outside, it didn't seem like it at all, but that's quite a bit of fencing.
Yeah, it'll come,
From your main entrance on your right side up Centennial, going,
yes, it'll actually hook into an existing pillar, our south pillar, and take it all the way back to the south and back east on Sylvania. And then also on the northwest side of Sylvania, where there's the drop off.
Price of stone going up.
boy, that's a lot of.
Price of stone's going up.
I hope so, guys. I didn't have that in this year's budget.
Is there any other questions or any other comments on this matter? Is there anyone else here who wants to speak on behalf of this matter? If not, I would entertain a motion.
Make a motion for the variance request for a 7-foot, short high fence needs to be located within the front setback of the property located at 8250 and 8350 Sylvania Avenue, parcel numbers 78-25884 and 78-26761 respectively.
Second.
Mr. Bowman?
Yes.
Mr. Bowman, yes. Mr. Schlachter?
yes.
Mr. Hubbard?
Yes.
Mr. Hayes?
Yes.
Mr. Miller?
Yes.
Okay. Now we're going to go off the record and take a break, and we're going to go back and discuss this case, and we'll be back shortly to vote.
Oh, you don't get to go back.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, you can catch up.
You have the record now?
Oh, he wants to say something back, that's why.
Okay.
All right. Okay, BZA is back in session. Is there any further discussion on the Central Avenue? We have the two, the variance on the side yard and the variance on the parking. Any questions? I have one. I guess the question I have is you've got the two restaurant locations. Is the second food establishment, in other words, have you kept even your size, everything the way you have it laid out? But if you didn't have the second restaurant and you were able to meet the code that way, is that still something that could work for your project? I mean, I don't know how committed you are.
You're saying it was just the one?
Yeah, the drive-
The rest of the rest retail?
Yeah.
Didn't need the parking grants?
Right.
No. Because one of those, as you know, I mean, in today's world, I don't know, 30% of our tenants that are going to do our centers or restaurants, maybe even 50%. That's where most of the small, that's where most of the retail growth is in the restaurant, not the big box anymore, it's most of the mixed use space.
Okay. Yeah, my challenge is, I mean, build a very good quality product. The challenge is finding the hardship in this, for me personally. That's the only issue that I have. And, that's what I'm trying to see. Okay, any other questions or comments on this? If not, I would entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion for the variance request on the side landscape strip from 5 feet required to 0, provided for the east and west side of the property located at 7427 West Central Avenue, parcel number 7841437. Also, variance request for the 7.
We need to do one at a time.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so that's fine. So
Second.
we're doing the side, yeah.
Second.
Okay, Mr. Boland,
Yes.
Mr. Hubbard,
Yes.
Mr. Hayes,
Yes.
Mr. Miller.
Yes.
Okay, variance request for a 7.
No,
Variance request for the side landscape, did I read that one?
no,
already?
we did that one. That's the parking.
Fine. A variance request on the required parking for the restaurant in an 8,200 square foot multi-tenant building from 58 required to 52 provided for the property located at 7427 West Central Avenue, parcel number 7841437.
Mr. Boland,
Yes.
Mr. Hubbard,
No.
Mr. Hayes,
Yes.
Mr. Miller.
Yes.
Passes.
Thank you. Good time.
Thank you, guys. Any other new business here? Anything else? If not, I'll make a motion for, or do I have a motion for adjournment?
So moved.
Oh, yeah, let's get, I'm sorry. It's a little quicker.
I think the guy looks all right.
I didn't even look at it, I was just throwing that out there.
We have fun.
So do I have a motion for adjournment? We have a second.
You told me you had that in high school.
Mr.
That's
Boland,
Sacramento Valley. Yes.
Mr. Slotker,
Yes.
Mr. Hubbard,
Yes.
Mr. Hayes,
Yes.
Mr. Miller.
Yes.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you. Thank you.
Whose listing was that?
Wanted to make things sweat.
I understand my vote.
Oh.